All right. I thought I'd push the live button. Having such an eventful week, I thought I need to start to brush up on building the habit of going live. I'm probably going to be going live as we move further into the end of this year and into the beginning of the new year because because I'm going to try to find interesting things to do to accompany my hormone balancing nutrient called Prometh3x. I've been a startup guy for almost 30 years, but in technology. I have a couple of software companies, been doing the tech thing, been in AI for a long time. My first startup company back in 2000 was a machine learning AI company, believe it or not. So I've been around some cool stuff for a very long time. That entire 30-year period, though, I've also been very, very, very interested in health and wellness and mostly on the performance side, always on the things that are geared towards boosting performance. In the last 10 years, my focus really shifted towards mental performance, right? Because I got introduced to some really effective natural products that give you that cognitive boost, and walking through life with the lights on made such a tremendous difference. It was very much like the Limitless kind of movie, that kind of thing. It wasn't, obviously it was realistic, right? It wasn't like the movie, but it was like the movie, right? It was like, and ever since I had that experience, my natural interest kind of shifted along those lines to realizing that, man, nutrients can make a huge, huge difference. I've always also been kind of adverse or avoiding the drug route, right? Nothing against drugs and pharmaceuticals and all that. Everything has a place and everything has a purpose. But the reality of synthetic drugs and the reality of all drugs are any synthetic compound, there's a cost to be paid metabolically, biochemically. It is because it's an unnatural substance. So for every good, there's some not so good, and in some cases, there's some potential for bad. You just need to know that going in, and whether that's a drug you have to get from your doctor or a drug you can buy from the drugstore. Read the box. There are a lot of laws in place that make people say what the reality is, but they do it knowing that we will not read the box, right? We don't care. You see those commercials that come on TV that says, take this drug to feel better, look better, be better. And then as they show you the beautiful picture of the happy young couple running through fields of sunflowers on the beautiful sunset day, in the background, the guy said that at a very low, moderate, I will ignore what you're saying voice, may cause hair fallout, eye loss, nosebleed, infertility, thoughts of suicide, death. I mean, it's just crazy. If you ever want to do something crazy, interesting. The next time you see a drug commercial come on, cut the volume up, but look away from the TV and just listen. Just listen to the horror show that they sneak in on these drug commercials because they have to, that you ignore when you look at the young happy couple playing with the puppy in the poppy fields, right? People know, the advertisers know that visually you will like what you see so much, you will ignore the horror show being described to you in the background. So I've always thought that was ironic and kind of scary. So I've always looked for ways to get healthier, better, stronger, faster, smarter, all that stuff without the use of synthetic compounds, if possible, right? And you can do a lot of that. Well, long story short, about a little over a year ago, some friends reached out to me for business insight. They were bringing this product to North America, this food-based product that supposedly helped enhance testosterone, blah, blah, blah. We see it all over the internet, right? But they were saying, "Lan, this is not a drug. It's not even herbs. It's a food source molecule." So I got to understand, and they came to me to help them introduce it to North America just wanted to pick my brain on the business side of things. So I said, sure, I'll take a look, but send me the product. Let me take a look. And I was intrigued by the product, being that it's from the food chain, from the actual human food chain. And I thought it was interesting. And they said, well, why don't you come to fly out and meet the scientists of the lab? They've been doing this for 25 years and see if they, so I did that. Met the guy. Guy was super interesting. His story, maybe I'll tell his story in another day. Probably need to ask if I could tell his story. But basically, it was a food company in India that were farming, they were looking at natural substances that they could capture and sell to pharmaceutical companies to make great drugs to make the world better, right? And that was the mission they were on until they realized a lot of stuff I just mentioned, that, man, pharmaceuticals work, but there's a cost to be paid, right, for synthetic drugs. And he was specific about it. He was like saying, for every good thing you get out of a molecule, there are 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 things that aren't as good, right, that you don't talk about, right? And he said it's not really because the drugs are bad. He says it's kind of a catch-20, because when people buy a drug, they want the drug to work like right now. Nobody wants to run down to Walgreens and buy a pain-relieving medicine that if you take it, it'll stop your back from hurting 3 weeks from now. Nobody wants to buy that. They want to buy the back pain relief medicine that works within an hour, works within 30 minutes, works within 10 minutes, which is possible with pharmaceuticals. They just make the potency such that you get the expressed desired feeling right away. And that's built into the business model. Go look at your medicine in your cabinet, what's in the front of the bottle, and see that it says like relieve headaches, solve your colds instantly, fast, 10 minutes, all that stuff, right? And there's a trade-off for that. And the trade-off is there are some potential side effects, blah, blah, blah. So he said because of that inherent catch 2020, they said, well, what if we didn't do that? What if we found molecules that actually have real biochemical, real physical, scientifically provable results, just like drugs, but we didn't sell it to the drug industry. We just took it straight to the consumer market. So they start going on this mission to see, well, first, you got to see, well, how many food source molecules out there are actually legitimate? Because everybody claims everything is a miracle superfood, super drug until you put it under the scrutiny of real scientific lab comparisons, double-blind placebo studies, and all of that stuff. Experiments in humans, not in vitro and not in animals. All that stuff matters. And turned out, in fact, that when they looked at hundreds and hundreds of things, they came up with a handful. They came up with a handful of actual food-based molecules that had drug-like results. So they started to isolate on these things. And long story short, they thought they had a molecule that they were pretty convinced would help with rheumatoid arthritis. And they were going down that path. But when they got to human clinical trials, they couldn't get through the human clinical trials because the females in the trial kept getting pregnant. And they realized, well, we're never going to get through trials because we have to test people in different age groups. I have to have a certain number. People in this age group and women are childbearing age, so you can't tell people not to have babies for the next couple of years while they go through a trial. But then they noticed that one of the doctors involved in the study noticed that a lot of the women were expressing that they had a heightened sense of libido, right? So, but the scientist was like, oh, that's just coincidence or something. We're doing arthritis stuff that has nothing to do with those pathways, etc. But the female doctor was like, hey, I don't know. I know what we're doing and I know what we believe to be happening. But statistically, there are too many women making this claim for it to be insignificant. You should at least go back and look at the research, go all the way back and explore why this might possibly be happening. So they did. They went all the way back, and lo and behold, this arthritis, this potential remedy for rheumatoid arthritis did in fact have a demonstrable effect on the efficacy of free testosterone. And they were like, wow, that's interesting. So we got the evidence of that. So we have to go back now, redo clinical trials specifically to see does under the scrutiny of real scientific research and regular trials, clinical trials, human trials, does it work? And does it work like drugs work, right? So they did all of that stuff, and they found a molecule that did, in fact, have a positive influence on testosterone. And the very first version of that molecule was brought to the market 25 years ago in a product that we've all probably heard of now on the TV, because they're a multiple $100 billion company from selling that molecule. It's a company called Nugenics, right? So that was 20 something years ago. So a year ago, that same lab said, you know what? 20 years later, we are much, much smarter on everything, right? Smarter on that food. That food molecule came from fenugreek, by the way. We are way smarter on all things fenugreek. We are way smarter on the pathways that support testosterone. We're way smarter on all of that stuff. And now we want to bring to the market like the new version. So it would be like, they introduced the iPhone 1 20 years ago, and now they said, you know what? We now want to introduce iPhone 5, right? Or 6, right? So I was intrigued. So I tried the product, blah, blah, blah. Felt awesome, by the way. And I was like, okay, I will help you introduce this product to North America. So we did. We introduced it to North America, but here's what we did that was so interesting. We challenged people. We said, hey, we're going to make some really big claims about what this natural food source molecule can do to optimizing your hormones and elevating your body's ability to use its own free testosterone. And we're going to make some big claims. So what we want some people to do is go get a blood test. First, get your testosterone test before. Then you're going to take this regular natural product, and then we're going to do blood tests after, like 6-7 weeks later. And then we're going to let the math says what the math says. So, you know what happened? What happened is we got dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people to say yes to that. We had dozens and dozens of people say, okay, I'm in. I will try this. We made them pay for it too. We're like, hey, we got our hands on product, but it's not like, free. So they paid for it. They got it because, they were pro. So here's some things that I learned doing this whole prove it thing. We were just let the math test we were doing. The first thing I realized when we started having dozens and dozens and dozens of people get their testosterone tested, 90+% of everybody tested, male and female, had low testosterone. 90+% had low normal or below normal levels of testosterone, both in total testosterone and definitely in free testosterone. That was eye-opening. I'm much more educated on now. 18 months later, almost 2 years later, I know why that is. Environmental toxins, food toxins, lifestyle, stress, blah, 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 right? It would almost be impossible for you to have normal testosterone. Did you know that the average 20-year-old today in 2025 has on average the testosterone levels of the average 50-year-old from the 1950s? Think about that. 20-year-olds have old man, midlife man, grandfather levels of testosterone if they're not conscious about it and doing anything special to make that not happen, which most people are not because they're not even aware. Anyway, so we did these tests, and lo and behold, the results were what we thought the results were going to be, even with myself. So when I tested myself, I started off low. I was at 200, but I was 59, right? I'm 60. So of course, at that age, you're going to have depressed testosterone. I still felt great, still had an active life, was still doing my thing, if you ask me. I was still out there, still working out most 5 days a week, still doing my thing. I thought I felt fine, but 7 weeks later, I got retested, and I was up to 750. But before I got retested, I knew that my test levels were up because I felt better. I felt more active. I got out of it what I was hoping to get out of it. I wasn't trying to become the bodybuilder. I just wanted to feel, I wanted that go-get-it feeling, that go-get-it natural zest for life. that get some attitude, and I definitely had that. So I wasn't surprised that my test went up from 200 to 750. But what I was surprised by was how good I felt with what was still just normal levels of testosterone. 750s is just normal. It may not be normal now, right, for people my age or even younger. It's definitely high now for people even in their 20s, but it's historically normal levels of testosterone. So I was asking the functional medicine doctor, well, why do I feel so freaking good if my testosterone is just at a normal range? And then he said, when you look at my percentage of free testosterone to my total testosterone, it was on the high marker, right? So I had the equivalent free testosterone of a man with way more total testosterone than the 750. So that explained why I felt so freaking good and blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, I've still been taking that product. It was one of my best finds for 2025. And in the last 9 months, I guess it's been now, 8 or 9 months, although I've lost almost 40 pounds on the scale, I've done that while I've gained 10 pounds of lean body mass, and got that six pack coming back, all that stuff, right? So this stuff really, really works. I gave you the long version to tell you why excited I am that because I was so paid forward with this company, helping them out, helping them introduce it, helping people do that before study, after study, showing up at the health and wellness conferences, introducing it to medical and doctor offices and all that stuff, I built a really good relationship with the actual manufacturer, the labs. And when they said that they were coming out with their even more enhanced product than the one we had people tested on, I immediately started saying, I would love to be able to have my version of that, a private label of that new exclusive next gen version that you're going to be introducing to doctors and the health practitioner community. And they knew me and they agreed that I was worth the gamble, and we went through all the process and the money and stuff, and that's got approved. So that was my long way of saying I'm excited that my version of the next generation of that product, which I call Prometh3x, will be available in right around Black Friday time. Perfect timing, right? We just got our final approval back from the labs on our branding and all of that stuff, because everybody has to agree to everything. Everything has to be on board and check all the boxes, because there's a lot of third-party validations. There's a lot of lab validations that we maintain forward. So we need to make sure that we don't do anything outside of the rules or the coloring outside of the lines that might put all of those clinical trials, third-party validations, lab validations, manufacturer validations in any type of risk. So we play well within the lines. So Prometh3x is going to be available right around Black Friday. I'm so excited because of that. We're going to have it physically here in Las Vegas. I'm partner in a hydrogen water store here that we're going to use as home base here locally. As we get the product in hand, we're going to then start working on, and we start introducing this into all the people that are blown away by the product that I introduced to them over the last year. They rave by that product, by the way, but they can't wait to get this product in their hands. And then we're going to transition to people's ability to buy things online. If you see this video and you can't wait for that, you have to DM me. Let me know you're interested. We can work it out. Obviously, I'm going to have to physically take it to the mail, take it to the postal and mail it to you. Of course, I would expect you to cover that shipping. But the product, I will still, I'm going to try to be generous as I can in the beginning for sure, just to get as much product as I can in the marketplace so I can have that wave of motivation we created by introducing that product and having all of those people feel so good, look better, feel better, telling their friends and family about how good they feel, what their labs were before and after. I want to do all that stuff now with my own branded product, right? So Prometh3x, I named it Prometh3x because I like the metaphorical significance of the mythic god of the rebel titan, right? That gave mankind the gift of fire, Prometh3x, right? And we now call fire that the fire of vitality, the fire of youth. We're going to expand that conversation because I have a strong belief in personal growth and development and constant improvement. So the fire metaphor will become more comprehensive to the conversations we have. It's going to be the fire of youth, the fire of passion, the fire of being inspired, the fire of love. So yes, we're going to build a brand around this idea of leveraging the gift of fire. And product number one, Prometh3x, will be in the market in, it looks like, about 2 weeks, 2 weeks from now. So excited. Finally, to have my own nutritional product in an industry that I've been a big fan and student of for 30 years. I have protocols. I know a lot about nutrition products. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but I've tried so many things and read so many things and studied so many things for 30 years that I could look at I could look at a label and tell you what the product was manufactured to do. I can look at ingredient profile and tell you, not only can I tell you what that product is designed to do, I can tell you how committed the manufacturer or the brand was to using the best approach to doing that thing, right? The information's out there. None of this stuff is secret, especially now, right? All kind of information is out there. So now it's not is the information is secret. It's about, can you find brands that you trust to be doing what they claim to be doing? Because there are a lot of really powerful things that really do work. That's no longer the question, right? The question becomes when the brand says that their product, well, first of all, when the brand says that what's in their product is in their product, that's one. Can you trust that? Unfortunately, way more than half the companies in existence will fail at that one low bar. What they say is in their product is not in their product. What they say on the label doesn't match what's in their product. And what they say on their label doesn't match the dosages required of what's on the label to get the result that the research says those ingredients will do. There's a lot of that going on. So we're in the world where can you find brands that you trust? So I'm hoping to be able to build the trust with people on the simple, basic things. One, I'm super passionate about making a real world, real life difference. I'm really committed to finding pathways to do that don't rely upon synthetic components to make that happen. And I'm really committed to finding sourcing places where I can trust that what is being claimed is in the capsule is actually in the capsule, and that the quantities of the profile mix of those active ingredients match the science and the research that shows what quantities need to be used to create the physical effect, not only in clinical trials, but in human trials. That's my mission. So those are the things I'm going to try to stick to and work on delivering for you. So welcome to my excitement. I hope you, if you're watching this video, here's the sad thing is, if you're watching this video and you're not doing anything about it, you probably have low testosterone, women included. You just do. There's almost no way you cannot, because of the odds are so against you, giving the water supply, food supply, stress, just all the stuff going on, the air we breathe, and so many synthetic compounds in regular everyday life that we overlook, like flavoring, coloring, scents, things that we smell to make us buy stuff. A lot of those things at the end of the day are hormone disruptors, endocrine disruptors. They mimic hormones. So your hormone balance is probably out of whack just by living a regular life, even if you're trying to do the right thing. So one good thing about this product is that it helps bring your hormones back into balance. Doesn't overdo it, It's not going to make you the Hulk. None of that good stuff. But that balance will create usually a physical, dramatical, visual change because it's going to be so starkly different than walking through this world, rolling the dice that your hormones are doing what they're supposed to be doing as you eat regular stuff and do regular things. It's not. You are so underpowered, you don't even understand. I was underpowered and I was doing things to be overpowered. And I felt great. But I feel better now. And I look better now. So these things work. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I will be doing some versions of lives, not all the time, but sometimes, when I want to tell long stories like I just did today, but stories that I think help fill in blanks that might be needed for you to fully understand something that I'm fully excited about. So with that, thank you for tuning in. And I hope you continue to tune in. And I hope you join us. I hope you join me in this venture, starting with Prometheus. Get your hormones balanced. Get you that increased go-get-it attitude that comes from that free testosterone doing what it's supposed to do, both in men and women. We have just as many women as we have men on that product that we had all those people testing and getting lab results from. And the women love it as much as the men. But this version is not only testosterone enhancement or optimization, it is also nitrous oxide optimization naturally from a food source molecule, and blood flow optimization, again, from a food-sourced natural human food chain food source molecule. So not even herbs. We don't even use, we're not even using standardized herbs in this thing. Like, we're using food source molecules. But it takes a lot of science to isolate those molecules and do those things so those molecules stay potent and can do the magic in your body that it does. Thanks, guys. Thanks for bearing with me and letting me ramble a little bit. Such an exciting week for me. Such an exciting week.